Let's call it what it is. Cleveland is in meltdown mode. Not the fun, fire the t-shirts into the crowd kind. The slow burn eye-twitching kind. The one where a promising season gets set on fire by the very people meant to protect it. And right now, all eyes are on two names, Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Stefanski. Because what started as a rookie quarterback's quiet injury has blown up into a full-blown organizational crisis. Here's the tea. Shedeur Sanders, the Browns' highly hyped rookie quarterback.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Goes down with an oblique injury. Doesn't sound like the end of the world, right? Except the Browns didn't just stumble on any rookie. They invested in Shedeur like he was the guy. Not a backup. Not a project. A future face of the franchise level bet. And what did they do with that investment? They mishandled it. Publicly. Repeatedly. Now fans are angry. Reporters are digging in ownership. They're livid. Let's rewind this disaster. It started when Sanders, after a red-hot preseason debut and a week of taking first-team reps in practice, suddenly missed a session. No clear reason. Stefanski gave one of his usual non-answers, brushing it off as load management. Then came the whispers, oblique strain. Not serious. He'll be back soon. Except he wasn't. Days turned into a week. A week turned into a second missed preseason game. And suddenly, a minor strain looked more like a misdiagnosis, or worse, a cover-up. Meanwhile, fans watched other rookie quarterbacks, Caleb Williams lighting it up in Chicago, Jaden Daniels out there in Washington getting first-string reps, and started asking one simple question. Why isn't Shedeur playing? And here's where it went from concern to chaos. Sources inside the Browns building say Stefanski downplayed the injury to avoid looking like he overused Sanders in camp. Translation? He's more worried about optics than his QB's long-term health. Ownership? Not amused. You got Jimmy Haslam watching a multi-million-dollar asset being fumbled like a loose football in the rain, wondering why the medical team and the coaching staff aren't even on the same page. One source even said the word being floated in closed-door meetings is negligence. Because this wasn't just poor communication. This was a moment when the Browns needed leadership, accountability, and a plan. What they got instead was spin, silence, and a head coach who looks more checked out than in control. Now, let's talk about the quarterback room, which has turned into a bad episode of Hard Knocks. Kenny Pickett? Sidelined. Dylan Gabriel? Still recovering from his own minor issue, not serious, but enough to slow him down. And Joe Flacco? Great guy. Super Bowl champ. But let's be honest, he's not your franchise future. So what you've got now is a room full of broken plans, and the one guy who could have held it together, Shedeur, is injured, confused, and reportedly frustrated behind the scenes. Oh, and did we mention the growing tension between Stefanski and the rest of the offensive staff? Apparently, several assistant coaches, including offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt, pushed for a more conservative plan around Sanders' workload early in camp. Fewer reps, slower rollout. Get his feet wet without throwing him to the wolves. Stefanski overruled them. He wanted to make a statement, wanted to show that this rookie could handle pressure. And to Shedeur's credit, he did. The kid thrived. Until he didn't. And now that he's hurt, Stefanski is the one fumbling his own message. Instead of being transparent, he's dodging. Instead of rallying support, he's isolating. And it's starting to look like the head coach doesn't have the locker room or the front office behind him anymore. You can feel it in the pressers. You can hear it in the tone of Haslam's comments when he says things like, "We need to evaluate how we're managing our talent across the board." That's not vague. That's a warning shot. And let's not act like this is Stefanski's first time riding the quarterback carousel off a cliff. Remember Baker Mayfield? The passive-aggressive pressers. The awkward benching. The decision to ride with Case Keenum one week, then flip back the next. And Deshaun Watson? A whole other saga. Mismanaged injuries. Mismanaged press. And more confusion than clarity. Now it's happening again, but this time, with a rookie everyone thought would finally bring a new era. And if you're Shedeur Sanders, you've got to be wondering what kind of team you just walked into. He's seeing rookies across the league getting starter reps, media support, clear development plans. Meanwhile, he's stuck watching a carousel of dysfunction spin around him, wondering when the adults in the room are going to act like it. And the fans? They're done being patient. The same fan base that has sat through Johnny Manziel, Brandon Whedon, Cody Kessler, Baker, Brissett, and broken promises year after year. They finally thought this time was different. But now, they're watching history repeat itself in real time. And here's where it gets real messy. Stefanski's job might hinge on what happens next. Because if Sanders' recovery gets dragged out, if the Browns stumble through the early part of the season without a clear plan, and if the locker room fractures even more, Haslam is ready to pull the trigger. People inside the league already believe that Van Pelt could be promoted mid-season. He's respected, connected with the quarterbacks, and isn't afraid to push back on Stefanski's blind spots. This isn't just about wins and losses anymore. It's about trust. And right now, Stefanski's fresh out. You don't lose the confidence of your ownership, your locker room, and your fan base all at once, and expect to survive the storm. And the craziest part? This whole mess started with a simple injury that could have been handled with clarity, care, and a little common sense. Instead, it turned into a referendum on a coach who might be out of time. So now what? Shedeur's on a cautious recovery path, but he's expected back soon. And when he is, the pressure to start him will be suffocating. If he balls out again, Stefanski can't ignore it. He either makes the right call or guarantees his own exit. If he struggles, that spotlight shifts even harder, not to Sanders, but to why he was put in a position to fail. Every path leads back to Stefanski. And every path, at this point, is lined with fire. The Browns better decide quickly. Are they going to keep dragging this slow-motion disaster through September? Or are they finally going to make the move? Because Shedeur Sanders deserves a team that protects its talent. And Cleveland? Well, they've run out of excuses. Time's up. You ever seen a franchise hold its breath? That's what's happening in Berea right now. The building is silent, but not calm. It's a kind of silence that comes right before something breaks, whether it's a losing streak, a coach's grip on the locker room, or the last bit of patience from ownership. And at the center of it all, Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback who hasn't even played a regular season down, and yet somehow he already holds the keys to the future. And the Browns know it. Every single person in that building knows it. They've seen the throws. They've seen the control, the leadership, the viral Nike ad, the charisma that oozes off him like he was engineered for primetime. So why is he on the sidelines, nursing an oblique injury that feels less like a health issue and more like an organizational failure? Because once again, the Cleveland Browns managed to take a good thing and turn it into a public spectacle. And make no mistake, this injury is no freak accident. This is what happens when a coaching staff gets cute with a kid who's ready and overextend him trying to prove a point. They wanted to see if Shedeur could handle the pressure. Well, guess what? He could. They couldn't. Let's not forget, Shedeur came into camp humble, hungry, and on a mission. He didn't ask for handouts. He didn't post cryptic tweets or demand first-team reps. He earned them. With precision. With patience. With every spiral that cut through practice like a dagger. And when he finally got his shot, he delivered. His preseason debut was nothing short of a mic drop, clean throws, red zone efficiency, perfect reads. It was the kind of performance that's supposed to answer questions, not create more of them. But instead of riding the momentum, Stefanski tried to mute it. He cut his reps. He shifted praise elsewhere. He started talking about progress and patience, like Shedeur hadn't just made the entire QB room look like they were wearing ankle weights. Then the injury hits, and instead of pulling back and protecting their investment, they doubled down, pushed him harder in drills, tried to milk every last ounce of evaluation they could before the regular season locked in. And now they're paying for it. The oblique injury might not be season-ending, but the damage to this franchise's credibility? That's another story. Because how many times can you ask fans to believe? How many times can you promise that this time, the Browns have the guy, only to fumble the development, mismanage the moment, and then downplay the fallout? You think fans are buying the routine strain story? Not anymore. They've been down this road too many times. The phantom injuries. The just a precaution scratches that turn into IR stints. The rookie promise that never makes it past week 4. Cleveland doesn't need a miracle. They just need competence. And right now, Stefanski's not providing that. Not with this injury. Not with this quarterback room. Not with this entire situation. Let's talk about the ripple effects, because this mess isn't contained to Shedeur's oblique. The entire quarterback depth chart is in shambles. Dillon Gabriel? Shaky. His footwork's inconsistent. His timing's off. And every time he throws a check down on 3rd and 9, fans start chanting SHEDUR like he's already the starter. Kenny Pickett? Hurt. Again. It's starting to feel like he's never healthy for more than 2 weeks at a time. A solid insurance policy when he's upright. Joe Flacco? The guy is practically coaching at this point. He knows it. Everyone knows it. Great locker room presence. But he's not taking this team to January football. So now the Browns are sitting on a depth chart full of question marks, and the only exclamation point, Shedeur Sanders, is sidelined because his coach couldn't protect him from his own ambition. And the irony? Ownership was thrilled about Shedeur. Word around the facility was that Jimmy Haslam and Dee Haslam were all in on building the future around him, not just as a player, but as a face. They saw the ticket sales spike, the jersey sales, the ESPN coverage, the social media traction. They saw the spark this kid brought. And now they're watching that spark get smothered by mismanagement, silence, and a stubborn refusal to adapt. You think they're happy? Think again. There's been more than one closed-door meeting since the injury news broke. And let's just say the word accountability has been tossed around a lot more aggressively than usual. One high-ranking source even called the current situation embarrassing. That's the word ownership uses when they're done waiting. Because they're not just watching a rookie QB get mismanaged. They're watching the entire team risk imploding around a coach who seems more committed to his system than the people playing in it. And now the Browns are stuck in that dangerous place, too far into the preseason to pivot smoothly, but just early enough in the year to make a desperate decision if things go south in September. And let's be honest, they're already circling the emergency exits. If the team starts 0-2 and Gabriel stumbles under pressure, if Shedeur isn't active by week 3, if the locker room gets even slightly toxic, it's over. Stefanski's leash is short, uncomfortably short. And the longer Shedeur's recovery drags out, the shorter it gets. There's only one thing that can salvage this now. Clarity. Not spin. Not deflection. Not day-to-day nonsense. Real answers. Shedeur needs a clear, transparent return-to-play plan. Fans need a roadmap. And the team, especially the young core, needs a reason to believe that this organization is more than just a recycling bin for wasted potential. Because if Shedeur comes back, balls out, and turns the ship around, you might just save the season. But if they slow play this recovery, keep dodging questions, and trot out excuses while losses pile up, Cleveland is going to revolt. And Shedeur, he'll still be a star, whether it's an orange and brown or somewhere else. That's the scariest part. The Browns could lose this kid before he ever truly gets started. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because the people around him weren't. Because they tried to outsmart the obvious. Because they failed to protect the one thing they've been searching for since forever. A real quarterback. And if that happens, the oblique won't be the only thing broken in Cleveland. It'll be the trust, the momentum, the future. And once that's gone, good luck getting it back. Let's be brutally honest. This isn't just about an oblique injury anymore. This is about a broken system, a culture of second-guessing, a franchise so afraid of its past mistakes that it's now creating new ones in real time, right in front of our eyes. And Shedeur Sanders? He's caught in the middle of it all. When he got drafted, the narrative was clear. This was a new chapter. Not just a rookie coming to town, but a full reboot of how the Browns develop talent. a quarterback with pedigree, poise, and presence. They said he'd be treated like the future. Instead, they treated him like a problem. It started small. Limited reps in OTAs, odd usage in camp, lukewarm praise from coaches who couldn't stop talking about long-term plans and system fits. But anyone watching with clear eyes could see what was happening. Shedeur was outshining expectations and making people nervous. Not because he was cocky, because he was too ready. When your rookie walks into the building acting more prepared than the guy who's supposed to be mentoring him, that doesn't sit well with certain egos, especially if that rookie also comes with attention, sponsors, and the last name Sanders. Let's talk politics. Because make no mistake, what's happening in Cleveland isn't just a football decision. It's political survival. Kevin Stefanski is a coach on the edge. Not quite on the hot seat, but close enough to feel the heat rising. He knows that if this team underperforms again, he's gone. And he also knows that the quarterback he backs this season will either save his job or cost him everything. So what does he do? He plays it safe. Or at least, he thinks he's playing it safe. He leans on Gabriel, who's been developed the traditional way, despite the fact that his preseason tape looks like a QB playing hot potato with the football. He talks up Flacco, who, bless his Super Bowl heart, is about 3 years away from becoming a quarterback's coach. And he keeps Shedeur on ice. Not because Shedeur can't play, but because if Shedeur starts, Stefanski loses control of the narrative. Think about it. If Shedeur comes in, plays well, and becomes the guy, he becomes the story. Not the coach. Not the system. Him. And that terrifies Stefanski more than a blitz on 3rd and long. But here's the thing about narratives. They don't wait for permission. Shedeur's already become the story. And the longer the Browns pretend otherwise, the more ridiculous they look. Let's talk about that preseason game again. The one where Shedeur sat out, recovering from his oblique injury. No helmet, no pads, just standing on the sideline. And yet, he was still the most talked about player in the building. The crowd kept chanting his name. TV cameras kept panning to him after every offensive drive. Even national analysts, notoriously conservative when it comes to rookies, started openly asking, why isn't he playing? Meanwhile, Gabriel throws a pair of turnovers, including a pick six, so telegraphed it might as well have come with subtitles. And still, Stefanski insists, we're rotating reps, we're evaluating. Evaluating what exactly? Because from the outside looking in, it looks like the Browns are doing mental gymnastics, just to justify not giving Shedeur the job he's already earning. It's the same old story in Cleveland, except this time, it's more maddening because they actually have the answer, and they're too scared to use it. And ownership? They're watching everything. Jimmy Haslam isn't stupid. He's seen what happens when a fan base turns on the staff and the direction. He's lived through Johnny Manziel, through Hugh Jackson, through Freddie Kitchens, and all the trust the process speeches that led to nowhere. He saw how quickly support can collapse, how fast the crowd can go from hopeful to hostile. And right now, he sees the crowd turning. Not on Shedeur, they love him. Not even on Gabriel, he's just a pawn. They're turning on the staff, on the stubbornness, on the silence. And that's what has ownership worried. Because this isn't just about football. This is about optics, brand, future. They can't sell a season where the most electric rookie quarterback in the AFC is standing on the sideline while the team sleepwalks through another 7-10 finish. They can't sell another wait-and-see year while Jaden Daniels is winning games and Shedeur is stuck in clipboard purgatory. They need momentum, energy, hope. And the only person in that building giving them that right now is the guy recovering from an injury they never should have let happen in the first place. So what happens next? That's the part no one wants to say out loud. But people inside the Browns building are whispering, loudly, about how Stefanski might not survive a rocky September. About how Alex Van Pelt, the offensive coordinator with strong ties to the players, could take over as interim if the team starts 0-3. About how ownership might clean house mid-season if this Shedeur debacle isn't handled with urgency and transparency. Because this isn't a slow burn anymore. It's a controlled explosion. And the fuse? It's almost out. Meanwhile, Shedeur? He's staying quiet, recovering, showing up to meetings, watching film, not taking the bait, not talking to the press unless he has to. But you better believe he sees what's happening. And if this team keeps fumbling his future, he's not going to sit quietly forever. He'll go where he's wanted, where he's valued, where the coaches don't need 6 weeks and a full-blown collapse to realize what they have. And if Cleveland lets that happen, if they lose him before he even takes over, it'll go down as one of the biggest organizational failures in franchise history. And yes, that's saying something, because this isn't a QB bust. This isn't a talent misfire. This is a team actively resisting its own future. Why? To protect a staff that's running out of answers, to cling to a system that hasn't delivered, to delay the inevitable because they're too afraid to admit they were wrong. But the truth? They don't have time for pride. Not anymore. Because the window's open now. You've got a defense that's ready. You've got weapons on offense. You've got a division that's competitive but beatable. And you've got Shedeur Sanders, waiting, ready. All you have to do is get out of your own way. Before the season, before the boos, before the blowout losses and the Fire Stefanski banners start flying over the stadium. Because make no mistake, they will. Cleveland fans are loyal, but they're also fed up. They've waited years for the quarterback, for the guy who doesn't just play well, but raises the standard, who makes everyone around him better, who gives them hope they haven't had since LeBron left. And right now, they believe that guy is Shedeur. If the Browns don't, that's on them. But they better decide fast. Because every minute Shedeur spends sidelined, every vague injury update, every half-hearted presser, the more this story slips out of their control. And the louder the question gets. Are the Browns finally ready to win? Or are they just pretending again? Either way, they're almost out of time.